What's going on, guys? Just before we get into today's video, this isn't a sponsored segment. This is just a thank you to a sponsor. And that sponsor is, of course, CYBERPOWER PC UK, who are my new partners here on this channel. Some of you might already know that, but I just wanted to announce it again here on this video. They sent me this PC to help me provide you with better content. So, you know, I couldn't be more thankful. To Steve, who built this, it looks incredible and it runs even better. Thank you very much, my dude. And, you know, I'm looking forward to working with you guys moving forward. Hope you all enjoy the video. Take care.
Huh? You thought this one had just swam by, did you? You thought I'd let this one off the proverbial hook. Get it? It's because of fish. No. You're not going to get away that easy, Disney. You can't just go around dropping deuces expecting Jonny not to come a scooping. So, it's time to put this movie in its place, which is conveniently at the bottom of the ocean. But before we get into my feelings, let's talk about the facts. The original Little Mermaid is one of the more highly regarded animated Disney movies, lending itself a spot on many a top 10 list. Rotten Tomatoes critics gave it a 92%, while audiences gave it an 88%, which averages out to about 90%, giving it a clean 9 out of 10. It's currently sat on a decent, but certainly not groundbreaking, 7.6 on IMDb, which ever so slightly improves to a 7.7 when we look at the mean audience rating, so we'll call it a 7.7 out of 10. And finally, on Metacritic, its Metascore is a respectable 88, and the user score a 7.6, an average of 82% or 8.2 out of 10. And then, when we average out all of the average scores across these three platforms, we end up with a final rating of 8.3 out of 10. Respectable. Very respectable indeed. Now, let's contrast the scores that the original animation got with the 2023 live-action remake. Now, just before some of you have an aneurysm, screaming at your screens about how it's not fair because the 2023 live-action remake was review-bombed and the original wasn't, I wouldn't be too hasty. Because yes, although the scores were subject to controversy, it wasn't quite in the way that you might imagine. Starting with Rotten Tomatoes. Now, critics on Rotten Tomatoes gave the 2023 live-action remake a 67%, a very tepid 67%. Now, might I remind you that Rotten Tomatoes critics are so spineless they can't technically be classed as mammals. So, what did the review-bombing public give it? A 50%? A 40%? Maybe? Well, not quite. No, it's actually at, and I can barely believe I'm saying this, it's at 94%. Just to put that into context for you, that is the same score that movies such as Alien, The Dark Knight, and Apocalypse Now received.
Curious. Very curious.
Now, I don't know how much Disney is paying Rotten Tomatoes, and for legal reasons I probably have to say that that is simply my speculation and is not necessarily the truth, but if they are, it's got to be a saucy sum. There you go. You want to get rich quick scheme? All you have to do is set up a movie review site and just sit there and wait until Disney comes along with that cash enema. Bing, bang, boom, you sorted for life. What exactly is going on with that 94% score? I do not know. But if you check the all audience score on Rotten Tomatoes, that 94 quickly plummets to a slightly more understandable 58%. And if we take the mean of those two scores, even though that 94% is about as legitimate as African pesos, we get an average score of 6.3 out of 10. And it's a similar story with IMDb, sitting at a higher than expected 7.2. But some of you eagle-eyed viewers might have noticed this little text box just here, which reads, unusual activity. Our rating mechanism has detected unusual voting activities on this title. To preserve the reliability of our rating system, an alternate weighing calculation has been applied. Ah, an alternate weighing calculation, you say? Wow, sounds very legitimate to me. I can't see any problem with that whatsoever. That sounds like a rather diplomatic way of saying, we're lying about the score. When you check the average viewer rating, you'll find that it's actually sat at a 5. And if we average out the user score and the alternate weighing calculation score, we end up with an average of 6.1 out of 10. But the live-action Little Mermaid received by far its worst reactions from Metacritic. And once again, if we average out its Metascore and its user score, we get a rather more humbling score of 4.1 out of 10. And averaging all three averages from all three platforms, once again, we end up with a final score of, drumroll please, at 5.5 out of 10. That's including the averages, mind you, drawn from the fake pumped up scores. So, to put it in plain English, that's not splendid. But to be honest, even though I don't personally agree with the method of review bombing, the practice review bombing because, you know, I like to try and play fair even with my enemies. Even though I don't agree with the practice of it, it is still a valid form of criticism. You know, if something wasn't worth criticizing, chances are it wouldn't get review bombed. But whether you believe that the live-action Little Mermaid was review bombed or not, whether you believe it was fairly reviewed or not, it was undisputably, either way, poorly received in many circles. Unusual, considering its inherent ties to a widely beloved piece of media. Obviously, a lot of the backlash came from aesthetic changes to the original, but the question is, does the movie itself deserve the backlash that it received? Though you might not like certain aspects of the movie, it could still be a good movie. I almost said that with a straight face. It could be good. I don't know. Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's take a little look, shall we? But just before we do, a quick word from today's sponsor, FlexiSpot. My friends over there have kindly sent me one of their E7 desks to try out, and I've been using it for about the past month or so now, and it is absolutely incredible. I'm absolutely blown away by the quality. This thing is solid, with smooth motion from 60 centimeters all the way up to a height of 125 centimeters, and a max lifting strength of 125 kilograms, meaning it can lift almost two of me sat on top of the desk, and a max static load of 165 kilograms. This thing is sure to cater to any and all sizes and setups. And it even has USB built into the interface, so if you want easy access to a phone charger, you've got it. Click that link down in the description and go check out FlexiSpot, where from the 1st until the 30th of September, they're running a back to school sale where you can bag yourself up to 40% off. Go check out FlexiSpot, link down in the description, and thank you once again to FlexiSpot for sponsoring this video. And the movie kicks off in the most Disney way possible by immediately playing the victim card. But a mermaid has no tears, and therefore she suffers so much more. Listen, alright? I don't care that Hans Christian Andersen wrote that. You cherry-picked it and removed any context. You can even see the ... at the start. Come on now. Let's be honest with one another. You didn't want to honor the author when you did this. You wanted to pander to people. It's possible that some liberties were taken there.
I say kill her before she comes aboard. Let me see.
We are mere seconds into the movie, and already we have quite a nefarious, an egregious alteration to the original movie. In the live-action movie, it kicks off with a bunch of bloodthirsty white men out to kill a mermaid. But, as some of you will know, in the original, they're sailing away, singing a shanty about mermaids and how magical they are. They even have a mermaid engraved on the bowsprit. Everyone's in high spirits, well, everyone except Grimsby, and at no point in the entire movie does any human ever mention killing, or indeed even harming, a mermaid. Yeah, there's not a lot of subtlety to it. It is what it is. We've gone from Orange Man bad to just every man bad now. Man on screen, man bad. How very bold of you, Disney. How very brave. And oh boy, the acting is about as stiff as the old Disney. That's a rigor mortis joke because the old Disney has been dead for a very long time.
We've risked our necks out here for 7 weeks already. We're going home tonight. Eric, pay attention. I need you to be more careful.
Rotten Tomatoes are getting away with giving this thing a 94%. Full Metal Jacket has a 94%. Do you know what? I don't want to talk about it. Some of the CGI in this is okay. Some of it's decent. I liked the underwater explosions. Whoever animated that clearly actually looked up how explosions act underwater. That was cool. Apart from that, though, it's a little bit rough. Considering that this movie cost $390 million. $390 million. $250,000 of that went into production. Well, if you guys could do your best to ignore the fact that this movie is ugly as shit, it's time to meet King Triton's daughters. You remember those girls, right? They did a big musical number in the original to introduce themselves. You remember them, right? What do you mean you've never watched it? Well, in the live-action rendition, it seems that Triton has been getting a little bit freaky because his daughters are looking decidedly more eclectic, I think is the word. How many fishwives does this man have?
I wonder why a human would need one that size.
I bet Scuttle will know. She always does.
Wait, they made Scuttle a woman now?
Hey, let me see.
Sounds like a bit of a unnecessary change to me. Hold on, it's all coming back to me. Oh no, wait, I thought it was a dream this whole time, it was real. Oh wait, no, I forgot. Oh wait, no. Make it stop. Oh, make it stop, please. Also, just wanted to share this. I just happened to pause during the Scuttle scene from the original, and Flounder is just straight rizzing up the little mermaid. Look at this dude.
weird.
Sin City was a maybe.
Now, I'm aware that this is not the most technical terminology, but this movie is gross to look at. It's really not fun. It's a bad time. It's dark for most of the movie, and then when it's not, all the colors are washed out. You can barely see what's going on. I've seen Blue Planet. The sea can be and is a very colourful place. Apparently not in this. And then when it comes to like transplanting the actors into the animated mermaid rigs, it's again not fun at all. Mildly terrifying at times. We are way deep down in the uncanny valley. I get more seasick watching this than I would being on an actual boat in the middle of a storm. And the boat's upside down. Let's spend a moment just comparing the music between the original animation and the 2023 live action adaptation. And we're going to look at the shark chase scene because it happens to appear in both movies. It'll make for a slightly better comparison. And we'll start with the original animation. It's scored live with an orchestra to make sure that each beat is perfectly complemented. You know, when the shark breaks through the boat, there's a crescendo to accentuate the tension. And not only that, they've included percussion, like chimes, because although this is a very tense scene, it still maintains that magical underwater vibe. It remains relevant to the theme of the movie. Now let's contrast that with the way they orchestrated the live action rendition. Now I say orchestrated, but they almost certainly didn't use live instruments for this one. That is quite possibly the most bland, uninspired, generic, tense music I think I've ever heard. Actually, coming to think of it, that probably makes it the perfect kind of music for this movie. Hey, got him. Also, Ariel might just be an underwater Nazi. I'm just saying.
Gotta show him who's in charge.
Come back, Flounder. It's just Scuttle.
Wait, but that's not a seagull. Let me get this straight. Not only have you gender swapped Scuttle, they have now... they've bird swapped. That's a thing now. Thanks, Disney.
Your father still won't let you go to the surface, huh?
No, it's forbidden. He thinks all humans are barbarians.
Oh, they're not so bad.
But we've already established that they kind of are.
More harpoons! Run to the nets, man! I say killer!
Now the movie's just disagreeing with itself. This is fantastically written and is an outstanding piece of children's entertainment. Why is it so dark all the time? Just turn a light on. There's many different kinds of bioluminescent sea life. Just stick them to the walls or something. You even miss little nuances and interactions between the characters. For example, when Ariel is singing Part of Your World in the original, we see how the situation affects her, obviously through her singing and her emotions, but we also see how it affects Flounder and how Flounder understands how she's feeling through his body language and facial expression. It's a little touch that really helps sell the idea of their friendship. No such subtlety in the live action remake though. I mean, to be fair though, what are they going to do? They're going to cut to this? I don't think so. There isn't a single subatomic particle of emotion inside this dumbass looking fish. And then it just gets a little creepy out of nowhere.
Someday I'll be...
What the fuck is going on?
Over you, I cannot get over you.
Oh god, they've added a new song for the Prince, and it sounds like a Bastille song if the lead singer had been hit over the head with a large blunt object. Thank you, Linda Meringue.
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I know to musical theatre types, Linda Meringue is like Jesus, but to those of us who are not so enthusiastic about the theatre, you're more like Judas, to be honest. Let me just quickly check his discography. Hamilton, 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 Vivo, Hamilton, 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 Found Tonight, don't know what that is, Hamilton, 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 Mary Poppins Returns. A movie I've never heard another human utter one word about. And I can't help but notice that none of these top songs are any of the songs from The Little Mermaid. What? No love for Scuttlebutt. No respect for Scuttlebutt. It's a musical masterpiece. Well regarded, well renowned in the world of music for only causing a few thousand people to throw themselves off bridges. That's not many people. And look, I know it won't have been Linda Moran's decision.
Lin-Manuel Miranda.
I know it won't have been his decision to add the new songs. He was just hired to write them. And you might disagree with me here, but I personally think there's an air of arrogance that comes with adding a song, or in this case, multiple songs, and also removing songs from what is considered to be a classic piece of work, in this case, the original animated Little Mermaid. Even if you own the rights to that property. To use an IP like the Little Mermaid that other people worked incredibly hard to build, and millions of people have spent decades enjoying, to use that to push new music is, again, it's creatively dishonest. There's no honor in that procedure. Imagine if Queen came out and said, hey, we're going to remake Bohemian Rhapsody, but we're going to add 2 whole brand new minutes to the song. That would quite rightly be outrage, because Queen is still held in high regard. So if you wanted clear evidence that Disney is not respected anymore, just look at the fact that they are consistently defacing classic pieces of work, and in the case of things like the Mulan remake, just completely stripping every song from it entirely. The fact that they're doing this, and people are just not talking about it. People don't mention it. It's never brought up. And if you did, people would just be like, yeah? Is the sky blue? Is water wet? This is Disney you're talking about. Like, what do you expect? It's just common knowledge that they're creatively bankrupt these days.
Do these humans have any idea how much damage their shipwrecks do?
They are careless, Ariel. It will take thousands of years for this coral to grow back. And they've killed nearly all of the sea fern.
They'd kill us too if they had the chance.
So they've added a completely new through line to the live action adaptation, and that is humans are bad, they kill things, and they destroy coral reefs. You know, which to some degree they do in the real world. You know, so, you know, that's a noble statement to make, but only when that statement is made on a platform that you made, on your platform. This theme, although poignant, has nothing, and I mean nothing, to do with the original movie. And again, the kinds of people that Disney hire to make these kinds of films, they are not trying to make a change in the world. They're not trying to make a profound statement. They're just trying to get a pat on the back. Come on, it's just spineless dishonesty. I've said it before, I prefer people who are just straight up arseholes and own it, who are honest about it, than people who are fake virtuous. Fake virtue should be Disney's catchphrase. Thankfully, many people are starting to see through Disney's facade, but a frighteningly large number of people still don't, or rather choose not to. And look, Javier Bardem is fantastic, an incredibly captivating performer, but can someone please tell him to stop taking these aquatic Disney roles? You deserve so much better than this, Javier. Don't do it to yourself.
Sebastian, have you noticed that Ariel has been acting peculiar lately?
Peculiar, sir?
Distracted.
I can't hear you, Javier. It's still too dark. So for the live action, they made up a backstory behind why her mother isn't around. And of course, it's because she was killed by a man, because human bad. We know this. But the real problem with that is it completely changes the dynamics of the movie. In the original, Ariel is seen by both the audience and King Triton as naive. But as the film progresses, we learn that, naive or not, she's able to look beyond prejudice, and because of this is able to find happiness. But in the live action, she's told repeatedly to stay away from humans because of how dangerous they are. Because they actually are. We've seen them actively hunting mermaids. And her mother was also killed by a human. So, with that change of context, she's gone from a surprisingly benevolent individual who's capable of rising above generations of prejudice in order to acquire happiness, to a dumbass mermaid who is just dangerously naive and is drawn to toxic guys. Wow. How profound. Talking of profound, or rather things that aren't, on that list is Ursula. Ursula looks terrible.
Wait.
Yes.
What the? I had lunch ladies at school that would have made for more convincing octopus women. Without makeup. Aesthetics aside though, and I can't quite believe I'm saying this, but Melissa McCarthy actually delivered the most convincing performance. In a movie with Javier Bardem, Melissa McCarthy was the most standout. I'm not saying it's good, just the best. It's not saying much though.
Most people around here use too many words and have nothing to say.
Of all the lines to add to this movie, that's the one you add. Not the most self-aware people you have on the writing team, is it? And don't worry, for those of you out there who have been dying to see something that is as poorly dubbed as an Aquafresh toothpaste commercial, they've got you covered.
Didn't the Queen tell him to stay in the castle?
Yes, she did, Lashana.
That wasn't even close. Dude, I've just realized they've taken out my favorite line from the original movie. Well, rather, they've taken out the whole song, and my favorite line was in said song. If you didn't know, the French word for fish is poisson. And this is a quote from the movie. At one point, the French chef is singing, and I am directly quoting now, and he says, le poisson, hi hi hi, ho ho ho.
Les poissons,
Am I surprised that they didn't put it in? Not even a little bit, but man, I miss the days of insensitivity. There were good times, man. There were better times. We had more fun. We laughed at each other more. Ah, I miss those times. Also, they got rid of the Prince's emo flute solo. You know, like, can a white boy just not get jiggy with his woodwind anymore? You know, this guy was thinking about a girl while just shredding a flute on a balcony. I can say that we do this frequently, and I am sad to say we are just not being represented here. And then, of course, right at the end of the movie, the prince swoops in and saves Ariel. Except that's not what happens, because they made the, frankly, visionary decision to reverse the roles. And rather than the prince saving Ariel, Ariel now saves the prince, because God forbid they depict a man being helpful. Very brave, Disney. Very bold. So, in the case of, does the live-action Little Mermaid deserve the hate that it gets? Yeah, I mean, pretty much. It's awful. You know, it's frankly offensive how they used, but at the same time discarded and disregarded the original. It's the classic Disney move of standing on the shoulders of a giant, taking in the vista and all the benefits that come along with that newfound height, but then turning around and spitting in the face of that giant. And by the way, the live-action adaptation is more than 2 hours long. The original was 1 hour and 12 minutes. You managed to add more than 45 minutes to a classic. You added to a classic and still made it worse. That's legitimately impressive. That's genuinely impressive. It lost the feeling, the magic, the colour of the original animation. Poignant themes from the original were lost thanks to clumsy retcons, themes that actually make Ariel look better and more competent. It was a real drag to look at. I have legitimately had more fun watching that old AM boot screen. Not one, and I mean not one single actor delivered a standout performance in this movie. The additional music was utterly pointless. It added no substance to the story. It was just self-indulgence. Sometimes you get those productions where everything just comes together right. Each piece just falls into place and you end up with a masterpiece. You catch lightning in a bottle. This is whatever the opposite of that is. They caught poop in a bottle. Every single piece of this movie was weak. The storytelling, the acting, the music, the visuals, everything. And you can't stick all that together and expect it to stand by itself. The only thing that stopped this production from completely drowning is its ties to the original, which it owes everything, by the way, but pays absolutely no mind to. If I handed someone $390 million, which I don't do all that often, but if I did, and they came back 6 years later with this movie, I don't know what I would throw myself off. But whatever it is, it would be unbelievably high up. You might have gathered at this point that I'm not the biggest fan of this movie. Not the biggest. Nor can I recommend it to anyone of any age. There you go. You know, I have nothing more to say about this movie, and I look very much forward to saying nothing more about it. Let me know what movie, TV show, or video game you'd like to see dissected in the next video, but until then, take care of yourselves, guys, and I'll see you around. And as always, a big shout out to the channel members and the Patreons. Of course, we have the top tiers, the Knights of Law, Flunky, Posabon, Infinite Dum Dum, David, Jax, Koss, ATS, Texas Lawman, Michael Turpia, Dagger69, nice, Saint Nemo, Steve the Goat, Michael, Digital EXE, and Nystagmus. To all of you, the Knights of Law, I thank you for your service. The tier 2s, we have Saeed, Dr. Melski, Yonwich, Hadziu, Kanadog Ramachi, Mark Maiden, Sensei Fang, Mendicant Bias, Michael S., Rich Walbert, Kidnap Tiger, Micah and Jarek, and the Grand Admiral. And we're also welcoming Agent MO62 to the second tier. Thank you for becoming a channel member. I really do appreciate it. Welcome to the channel, my friend. Really good to have you. And of course, a big thank you to the tier 1s as well, to each and every one of you on this list. I thank you. And there we go. Another day, another video. Will you join me for my next one? You better do. You little bitch, you. But until then, take care of yourselves, guys, and I'll see you very soon.